In this tutorial, we will learn how to use AISACs in ADX2. AISAC is a system in ADX2 allowing the control of audio parameters by values coming from the game. This kind of feature is also sometimes called real-time parameter controls, or RTPCs in short. For instance, it can be used to simulate the reaction of a crowd. In that case, the game will send the crowd excitement level to the AISAC assigned to a cue, which will change the sound of the crowd in real time. Let's see how it works. The first thing to know is that there are two types of AISACs in Atomcraft. Global AISACs, which are shared across the project and can be referenced by multiple cues and tracks. And track AISACs, which are used by a single track. Now let's create an AISAC. First, right-click on the track you want to control in real time. In the context menu, select New Object and then Add AISAC. The Add AISAC window appears. We can name the AISAC here. Select the parameter you want the AISAC to control. As you can see, many parameters can be controlled by an AISAC, such as volume, pitch, pan, filter, cutoff, frequency, and so on. We are going to use the default, which is volume. Click Add. Once the window is closed, the AISAC tab is selected in the FX AISAC panel at the bottom of the main window. It displays the AISAC mapping curve, which by default is a horizontal line. Basically, an AISAC allows you to define how to map the value of a game parameter that goes from 0 to 1 to the value of a sound parameter. Now, simply click on the line to add points and drag them to shape the curve as you wish. Like for the automation curves, the segments of the AISAC mapping curves can have different types. You can also edit the points precisely by entering their coordinates on the keyboard in the list on the right. Great, let's try this. Play the cue, and while the sound is looping, drag the AISAC cursor from left to right to hear how the change is affecting the volume of the sound. You are simulating the game variable going from 0 to 1. The same principle applies to whatever the sound parameter your AISAC controls. Of course, it is possible to assign multiple sound parameters to a single AISAC. Left-click on Volume, click Add, and then choose a new parameter. Here we choose Pitch. Again, shape the curve as you wish. We now have two parameters on our track, volume and pitch, that can be controlled by a single AISAC. We can see them both now. Let's hear the result. Press play and move the AISAC cursor, which actually corresponds to the crowd excitement. Using the AISAC feature in Atomcraft is very easy. Maybe you've noticed that there is a Control Type tab in the AISAC pane. This is because the AISAC mapping curve can also have a random range and be retriggered periodically. This opens the door to a lot of possibilities. Let's see. When you select Auto Modulation, the control value is automatically changed over the specified time. First, you need to indicate if the curve should loop or if it is a one-shot curve. Then you draw your curve and tell the engine over what time period in milliseconds you want the pitch change to occur. In this example, the sound will pitch up following the curve for a duration of 1000 milliseconds. Now let's compare to the original sound without the AISAC. Finally, a random AISAC can be used to assign a random value from the mapping curve. To use this function, specify random for the AISAC control type and shape your curve as you want. For example, it can be very useful if you want to trigger a sound with a pitch that is random but still constrained to the notes of a musical scale. Let's hear it. The random value is determined at the time when the playback request occurs. By default, The random range is 2, and a random control value is selected in the range from 0 to 1 for any specified AISAC. This concludes our tutorial about AISAC, a great way to control the audio from the game.